afternoon. Actually, it's good evening, everybody. How are y'all tonight? Thank y'all so much for being here. Welcome in. I'm the Cryptid Huntress, Jessica Jones, and this is a fantastic show where I remote view blind remote viewing targets, such as this one that we have tonight. I have remote viewed Atlantis, you guys. I know that's a huge target. Okay, but Barry Littleton is here in the studio tonight. He tasked me with a couple of blind targets this week, and Atlantis happened to be one of them. And we got such incredible data out of this. I did this in 2 sessions, and we're gonna go over that data tonight. Okay, and the mythology behind Atlantis, what Plato wrote about Atlantis, what we think might be true about Atlantis, and what might not be. I don't know. I know I got a lot of data on it. And it might have something to do with some chimeras and cryptids as well. So we're going to go there tonight. We're going down another rabbit hole. Okay. Okay. So if you guys would like to follow along with my data, I have a Patreon, and that's the Cryptid Huntress over on Patreon. You guys can go become a member, and shout out to all my members there. You guys are the best. Also, I have a shop that's called War Woman Goods. And you can find that on Etsy and on my website, thecryptidhuntress.com, where you can find all of my shows there and keep up with all the stuff I'm doing. I'm going to update that this weekend. I do have some conferences and some events coming up next year. Or not next year. God, I'm in a time warp tonight, y'all. It's already January. I don't know what time it is. I don't know what day it is. Time is but an illusion, right? I've been really busy, if y'all can't tell. So this year, I have a conference coming up, a couple of them. And we also have the Spaced Out Radio Fan Party coming up in May. That's in Reno, Nevada. So you guys come meet me there, I think it's May 10th through the 12th. I'll be there broadcasting live. Okay. All right. Well, let's get to this topic tonight, because we have a lot to unpack. And I want to bring my co-host up tonight, Barry Littleton. And so I'm going to give an overview of what we're going to discuss tonight, and then we're going to get into the topic. In ancient accounts, the lost city of Atlantis, or the island of Atlas, was an advanced civilization and utopia, rich in wealth and in wisdom. The story of Atlantis first appeared in works by Plato around 360 BC. He described Atlantis as being an idyllic civilization located beyond the Pillars of Hercules. The island was said to be home to a superior race of individuals who embodied the epitome of virtue and wisdom. Plato depicted Atlantis as a powerful kingdom rich in precious metals and rare stones. It had an intricately designed city layout with concentric rings of water and land connected by tunnels wide enough to accommodate ships. But it suffered a catastrophe. Overnight, the island/continent, it was covered in water and it sunk underground, according to what Plato wrote. Okay. So did this place really exist? Is it merely a fictional mythological city of legend and lore? And if it did exist, what was life like on Atlantis? Well, I was tasked with this target as a set of coordinates. That's all I had. I had 8 numbers. And I got a lot of data out of this. I had 2 sessions that I did. And the person who tasked me that target is here with me tonight. I have Barry Littleton, a very talented and resourceful researcher, one of my good friends, and my trusty sidekick here. So please help me welcome to the show, Barry Littleton. Hey, Barry.
Hey, what's up, Jessica? What's happening? Thanks for having me. Hello to your audience too. I'm still somewhat amazed. I keep getting occasional emails or contacts regarding that last remote viewing show that we did over the mall aliens, holographic images. But yeah, that's cool. So thanks for having me again and for doing another one of these targets.
Okay, I love doing your targets. Okay, and that mall aliens video has gotten over 13,000 views as of today. Every day it gets like 1,000 more views. It is out of control, and so that shows me that people are interested in not only that subject of what happened down there, but remote viewing. Okay. I mean, I guess everybody's just looking for answers, right? And so the way I look at that is like, well, people are opening up to the idea, or maybe it was clickbait. I don't know. You know what I mean?
No, I think it
It
was
could have been
trending
that.
really hard, and right now people are wanting answers, and
Yeah.
it's at a point where I don't know. I think staged events like was came up in that data is just going to become even more frequent as you things to avert what's really happening with us consciously in this world, which Lord knows is needed badly here. Oh,
It is.
something else I really like that you had mentioned concerning, excuse me, concerning the Plato account. He never said anything, if you really look at what he said, about there being these gods there or this technology or anything really like that. He didn't say anything like what the things that have built around the myth of Atlantis long after what he had said. So I think that's just worthy that you brought that up, and it's worthy as far as legitimate research goes.
Oh yeah. Well, it's stated when I was researching this topic, it stated that he was the one who actually brought up brought it into public consumption, basically, about Atlantis. He's the one that published the works on it. And I was watching it, I do my research the day of or the day before. As soon as I find out what the target is, I found out last night, y'all. Okay. So I found out like late last night, actually. And so I stayed up late watching videos and doing my research because trying to analyze the data, that's important, is to analyze the data and according to whatever the stories are behind these targets and stuff. And I was coming up with a lot of things that matched my data. But yeah, it was Plato. Okay, I saw one video where they were saying that Plato was actually on mind altering drugs. Okay. And that's how he got some of these downloaded messages about Atlantis. Okay, now I don't know the validity of that, but that's one of the videos that I watched. So because people are like, well, how would he know? But then again, what I am learning through especially doing these targets, Barry, is that history has changed and it's not what we're told. And there's a lot of things hidden from us. Okay, so maybe he just had a little bit of knowledge and he put it out there, of stuff that we weren't supposed to know. You know what I mean? Like hidden history, hidden knowledge, secret history. Maybe it was just another human reset. So
Because he mentioned an island of commerce.
I don't know, maybe.
I'm sorry.
Maybe.
I just got to keep things in perspective a little bit, but yeah, that's cool. I will say this. It's interesting because coming from the perspective of, I was very much into, especially when I was younger, into books. I would go to a special bookstore, the melanin dominant black bookstore, where they would have these books that had no barcodes on them. And some of the information you would get there that was connected to kind of African type of myths and religions and things that you couldn't get access to here was really interesting. And, the things that were said about Atlantis in those books was different. Like, for example, Mu, what they had kind of said about Mu, that Mu was in the area that Atlantis is, but it was a one mass. And there was these wars and then earth cataclysms that broke it up. And that's when it became Lemuria and Atlantis. And they're describing different beings there than what Edgar Casey was, or than what these other people, all these different locations of where was Atlantis really at. Was it in the Pacific? Was it in the Atlantic? Where was it? Was it the Eye of Africa, the wretched stretcher in Africa? Was that Atlantis? There's all these other things. But when you really break it down, somebody who's done, I think, probably the most intense research on where the location of Atlantis would be is Randall Carlson. He's done like hours and hours of demonstrations and maps on that. And what he's come to is that it was at the actually as Azore Plateau or Azore Platform along the transatlantic ridge. And that's kind of near getting up there near Nova Scotia. And everything that Plato said and what he has found is absolutely down to the deal. He went through all Plato stuff. And I mean, he's done so much work concerning worldwide driest period period cataclysms more than anybody I know outside of Graham Hancock. So anyway, so that was the area, you know, once these coordinates, that was part of it. And it's so fascinating that you were picking up immediately in that data, sunking undersea and things. Yeah, things that were more that would just be some coral reef or something. It was, you know, and you had no idea what you're looking at again. So that I found that really, you know,
it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Sorry, I cut you off. You were talking. I got all excited. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, it's okay.
Talking about plateaus and areas of, you know.
Oh yeah. Well, there's so many different angles on this, okay, and everybody's got an opinion as to where Atlantis is located, if it was here. Now, when you do, you know, good old Wikipedia, you know, I love pulling up my Wikipedia because it's so trusty. but you know, that's what you sent me when I asked you what's the target. I'm dying to know, Barry, and you sent me a link, and it was a Wikipedia link actually, and so this was the picture that was on the Wikipedia posting. Okay. And so old world maps, right? They'll show us things that new world maps don't. Okay. Potentially. So, I mean, it's showing America. It looks like this is actually off the coast of South. It looks like South America to me, but I don't know. It says America over there to the right. Africa's over to the left. So I don't know. It's a wacky map right there, but nonetheless,
there
was a point.
If you get over, you'll see Mu is in the Pacific too. They have like Mu in the Pacific. James Churchward, Anyway, he's the one that put Mu in. Actually, he has actually in Atlantis and similar to where it was, but on his map he's got Mu being in the Pacific Ocean. Okay. The continent of Mu, and that's different than what I had read in the non-barcoded books. Anyway, sorry.
Wow. Okay. Well, some people say that it's okay. Doing my research today, some people say that it's off over the Bermuda, where the Bermuda Triangle is today. Okay, I've actually been told by someone who's in the super soldier programs. Okay, I was having a conversation with Jimmy Payne one night. He said it's off the coast of Peru, I believe. Okay, so there's all sorts of different locations where it could be. Now, for the audience, there may be some people in the audience who aren't familiar with what Atlantis potentially looked like. And I do have some maps, some artist drawings of what it might have looked like. Okay, and it looks what is that, the Burning Man? Don't they do like when they camp out, it looks kind of like this, how they put their tents in a circle like this?
Very, very important you brought that up. Mm-hmm. Do you know what the Eye of Africa is? The Richard structure that's around Urantia in Africa. Have you heard of that?
No, I'm not familiar.
When you view it aerial wise, it looks just like that. So it has left a lot of people saying that was actually Atlantis, and thinking that was Atlantis and what's left of it as far as ruins and things. Now, actually, scientifically, I think it's been disproven quite a bit. And if you have people that have done a little bit more research, have disqualified that, but yet you have these sites that are similar to that all over. So I advise everybody to look up the Eye of Africa, and you'll see how much similar it looks to that. So one of the reasons people will say that. So sorry, go ahead with what you were saying, please. But you brought that picture up. You could have brought up a better illustration. Yeah. Thank you.
That's what most people say, that would be the most proper representation of Atlantis in that picture right there. So why don't there's actually, this is an alleged picture from NASA. Okay, I found this today. There is an author who's written a book that says that NASA, and we all trust and love NASA, right? I'm just kidding. But yeah, they said this is from a NASA satellite picture and now I don't know the validity of this either, y'all, so do your own research on this. But this was a picture, and I couldn't find where it said this was located. So that's the Eye of Africa. That's the Eye of Africa?
Yeah.
Whoa. Okay. Well, that looks like what would be described as Atlantis. My goodness, Barry. Okay. What an interesting connection. Okay. Well, that's that then. Okay. 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 So that's the Eye of Africa right there. And that's supposed to be a NASA satellite picture of that. Okay. So, I mean, I'd say that might have my vote is where it could be. Okay. But what if there's like a whole bunch of these settlements? I don't know.
Well, exactly. I have to tell you what,
You
just to
know?
throw this in there, I don't want
I
to
know.
be sounding all weird, but there's that book, the Urantia book. And
Mhm.
in the Urantia book, they talk about the Garden of Eden. And I've already went through the Adam and Eve thing and Inky and all that, and I've got videos on that on my channel, all right, under book reviews. But when they have first the first garden, and then they have the second garden, the technically second Garden of Eden, and it's located in this peninsula, and they give it a very exact area for it. And that this also went under. And so you have people like there was a gentleman that I think he kind of disappeared. His name was Robert Sarmast, and he was investigating an area where that peninsula was supposed to be in, and claimed to be finding artifacts in deep dives. And then suddenly everything he was doing just seemed to get shut down. But that was called the second garden. Anybody looks up the Urantia book, and he was supposing that this peninsula and the second garden actually was Atlantis. So it's another person throwing out another geographical location for it. Just want to put that out there too.
Well, okay. I also found an article where they're claiming this was from NBC, which is another trusted news source. Okay, they were saying that the lost city of Atlantis had been found off the coast of Spain. It was in Spain. So it said they finally located Atlantis. We can all go. We can all rest easy now. There was but it was because of a tsunami. You can go to NBCnews.com and go find this article. It's from 2011. Okay. But it says a US-led research team may have finally located the lost city of Atlantis, the legendary metropolis believed swamped by a tsunami thousands of years ago in mudflats in southern Spain. Now, do you think it was thousands of years ago, or how far back do you think this goes, Barry? Millions of years? What do you think?
As far as Atlantis,
Mm-hmm.
I think towards the end of the driest period, which would have been 9,800 years ago, which is the end of the Ice Age.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but even Plato, I do believe Plato came like 4,000 years after that. So the cataclysm of it would have been even past the driest period, which would have been the end of the Ice Age. And that's when everything got wrecked and flooded and all that stuff. Like it got messed up before that, the beginning of the Ice Age, but afterwards, the end of it was pretty rough for anybody that was on the surface. So, but I
Okay.
think that it was whatever this is must have happened after that if Plato saw it. I would say Plato was something like what? I'm not an expert with something like
360 BC. It was
427.
4,000 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was around, I think it was around 4,000 years ago.
Yeah.
Like that.
I think that's about right. See, and the end of the driest, those cataclysms would have been 9,800 years ago, right around 9,800, they say. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So,
well,
there again, you're dealing with when talking. No, actually, speaking of Randall Carlson, I met him in Vegas. He was one of the speakers, and we stepped to the side and went up and sat down for a minute and talked. Fascinating individual. It was super cool. I enjoyed that. But he had described some things to me as far as like this driest period and this period of meteor impact from the period meteor shower. These meteors impacted. He described over about a 2,000 year length. There being like about 21 impacts or so, massive ones. It was hitting that ice and more. I was aware of just the 4 or 5 that he talks about. Hancock and some others talk about, but and they've actually found those on the satellites, like those holes. So yeah, so you got some of those meteors come down. Okay, they were coming down, heat up like 2,500 degrees or more, and then they smash into those ice shelves, and it sends that ice belling up into the atmosphere and then coming down and creating these sinkholes. So some of that we see are not all meteor craters. Some are this ice. So yeah, so there again, at the end of the Ice Age, anything that wasn't underground got pummeled.
Wow. Including Atlantis, potentially.
Yeah,
So,
but
that would make sense.
It must have been after, though, if Plato saw it. He came 4,000
Yeah.
years after that. So this must have been something created later. Ancient Aliens did an episode some recently, and they were talking about Atlantis, and they kept trying to connect it with non-Medal. And Amidala is that ancient city, very fascinating and one of the most interesting one of them. But they kept trying to say that part of non-Medalla is still underwater, and it might have been Atlantis. So it just keeps going on and on and on. You know what I mean? But where you were targeting was that area I'm talking about there, off the Azor platform, because that's the most convincing data I've seen for area wise of where Atlantis was. Everybody else seems like they're speculating. The one of it being the wretched structure, the Eye of Africa, is a good one, because that was probably underwater one time. We can see that definitely from that region. But I still think that isn't what Atlantis was. But there again, we've got a type 1 civilization with all these different settlements, whatever you want to call them, cities, and a whole different thing going on back then, apparently. So anyway, enough talk of this. I know you want to get to the data and stuff instead of everything else. So
no, I like whatever we talk about right now. It flows naturally. Okay, so we're gonna get to the data, man. I still want to get to the mythological story behind this too, because that it plays a big role in this. Okay, because the mythology, and what are we finding with a lot of these targets, that a lot of the mythology behind stuff is actually could have been reality. Okay, so we need to kind of talk about this a little bit. We're going to touch on this as to what happened to Atlantis. And Cynthia Prince, thank you so much for that super sticker. That's very sweet of you. I appreciate that. Okay, so what happened to Atlantis? This is from some of my research that I've done here. Okay, because Atlantis it seemed to be such a thriving island. And some people say an island, some people say it was a continent. It was a big chunk of land. It was prosperous, but as the years went on, problems began to rise. It was culturally rich and immensely wealthy, a very wealthy island, but greed began to take over with the hearts of the people there. Okay, so this is almost like the story that Plato wrote. It's almost a tale for us to use today as a warning, okay? Because we kind of see it today in our governments around the world and stuff. It's like greed takes over, they want the money, and the culture begins to diminish, okay? Like the society crumbles. But greed is often said to have come when the gods, okay, because the gods, this had something to do with the gods, okay? I believe it was, what is the god of the ocean? What was that?
Poseidon.
Or was it Poseidon, Zeus, Hercules? I don't know. They were one of them. I'm going to get to it in a second because I can't remember, Barry. I'm sorry. I've done a lot of reading today. Done a lot of reading. Now, let me just read what I wrote. Okay, what I have here. Okay, so the gods began intermarrying with the humans. All right. So where have we heard that before? We've been talking about that with the giants and the Nephilim, right? But the gods began intermarrying with the humans living on the island. The sudden exposure of increased wealth and power bestowed on these humans made them hunger for more than what they needed. The greed caused them to look past their own country and to seek to conquer other lands. Man, they got greedy. They started with the area inside the Pillar of Hercules and sought to control all the land in the Mediterranean. Country after country began to fall to the power of the Atlanteans, until only one power stood against them, ancient Athens. Athens was able to defeat the superior Atlanteans, and the conquerors from Atlantis were forced to return home in defeat. But that's not the end of the story. It was Zeus. Okay, Zeus became angered by the actions of the Atlanteans, and I think it was Zeus's sons actually that he gave parts of the land to. And they were supposed to be ruling it, but not to get greedy. But those human women, man, I tell you what, those human women, they caused all this. But he got angered by the actions of the Atlanteans and their attempts to conquer lands far beyond their own. Because of this, he sent a series of earthquakes. So Atlantis was sunk into the sea over the course of one day and one night. So basically, that's the mythological story behind what happened to Atlantis. Now, was it an allegory or was this actual? Well, we're going to find out tonight because I got some data on this. Okay, what happened to Atlantis? What is Atlantis? What exactly was the target, Barry? Can you tell the audience tonight?
It was like I said, that area on the Azor plateau.
Okay.
platform. And also not just that, but what it was, what existed there before, what ruins have been found there, and what it was. So that was really your target, that specific area, which would have been Atlantis. And so I wanted to see what you got. And one is, of course, did it exist? That wanted to be showed. And number two would be, what technology were you seeing? Were you seeing that? I really want to know that. Or were you seeing something much more natural that was showing this was a type of seafaring type of community, something much more normal for that era? Or was it something much more mystical and other things going on there? Because when you start dealing with, some of these theories of the gods that bred with people, there's books again that talk about that and exactly who they were and where they were from and what plasm they had. That Urantia book is one of them. When I talk about the Adam and Eve thing, what they call biological uplifters, they're describing Inky in there. So anyway, that was your target there, was that. And I wanted to do that opposed based on what I had heard. Also, the first way I learned about Atlantis was that it was actually the continent of Mu, but it was in that area too. And that once it was the cataclysms and the war that started happening there that broke it up. And that's when it became these islands and things. And it actually, and the way it was described, Atlantis was an island that had access to other islands right around in that area. So that kind of is similar there again. So, that's kind of where we were at. So that was why the target was there. It seemed the most concise way. And I'm sorry, it's just a way to get some of the crap out of it. And based on, we'll go into this later, I have past life memories. And some of them, I'm not sure it's Atlantis or where, but there's certain things like books I read in the past when I was younger that totally resonated with past life memories. And one of them was Edgar Cayce Over Atlantis was one of those books. And it wasn't necessarily Atlantis as much as it was the technology he was talking about. The same way Elizabeth H was talking about this technology, I have a remembrance of, definitely. And that takes me into past life memories. So these are some things that I want to see validation, and I think it's just good food for thought.
It is. It is. I just got a notification that my that Facebook quit streaming. Okay, so anybody that's watching on Facebook, I apologize. I'm going to try to fix that during the show. But yeah, so we're streaming on YouTube only right now.
What's with all the technical interference for this show? We've been getting it all day, just trying to communicate some pictures and things. It's like, wow, it's amazing that some things are just not wanted to get out. I'm not big on conspiracy all the time, but it's a trip when it really interferes with the way it's been tonight. But anyway, we'll proceed forward.
Yeah, it's really, well, we should probably let the audience know that you and I have been having a really big issue with our messages, our personal messages not going through to each other. They get lost in outer space. Whenever we talk about the shows that we're going to do, our messages are fine when we're text messaging and stuff until we start talking about remote viewing in our shows.
No targets.
It's the targets, and everything gets lost, and so it's important to note that, I think, because that doesn't happen with anyone else that I message with. Nobody, except for us. Okay.
That's comforting. Thanks, Jones.
Yeah, that's it. It's just you, Barry. You're the special one. Okay. But we're getting the information out there anyways. And I will try to get Facebook reconnected before the end of the show tonight. But if not, I'll post it on Facebook after the show tonight. Okay. We'll do that. Okay. So let's get into the data. I did 2 different targets. It was one target, but I did 2 sessions on the same target. Okay. And so let's just get into it now. If anyone would like full access to all the data, it's on my Patreon, the Cryptid Huntress over on Patreon. You guys can go become a member. I would love to have y'all. Okay. But okay, so I'll just kind of get into some of the sensory data. Okay. So I was feeling kind of confused. I was feeling something heavy, risky, something that was below and under. Okay, so when I'm getting a lot of sensory data about going down and below, I feel like, I'm traveling down. Okay, so something is down, something's hidden, something's below somewhere. So I wrote down, so some of my analytic overlay, the AOL over here, I wrote down some of the stuff was by sea, by boat, by land. Okay, I wrote by sea, by boat, by land. I heard heavy judgment. not taken lightly is what I wrote down. Man, and that has a correlation to the mythological, like the mythology behind it, right? With Zeus. I go with the flow. I got whipped into shape. Okay. I was picking up on a risk taker, something that was dominant or dominated, something dominated. There was a calculated risk taken, calculated risk, something that was beyond, like far beyond, way out. And I was picking up on underground, under the water. I wrote underwater, underground. And then I wrote down, this is interesting, between dimensions, between worlds. Okay, between worlds. And I want to show the sketch, okay, because when you do research, when you look up online Atlantis, this picture comes up quite often, and there's like an underground, an underwater sunken city. Okay, there's like a city underwater, and there's a statue of a bull. Okay, it looks like a bull. And I actually wrote, but you have to turn it sideways, so it might be reaching, right? But this was my sketch. Okay, so this was my actual sketch for my stage 3 drawing for this. And then I came across this, which I found kind of interesting. Okay, so it's just to note it. You know what I mean? So that bull comes up. Okay, so we're gonna get into the bull.
That correlates a little more than that, doesn't it, my friend?
It does. It does. We're gonna get that's coming up.
Fascinating.
That's coming up. Okay, so this is what I heard. So I was clairaudibly hearing on top of the world, and if I ruled the world. I think it's what is that? Lauren from the Fugees, I think. Lauryn Hill. She sings "If I Ruled the World" with Nas. Okay, I heard that. Y'all know I channel with songs. Okay, songs come through. But I was hearing I wrote down. I was hearing a roar, and I was feeling a rumble and a roar. Okay, and I was hearing tones, frequencies, cymatics is something I wrote down, and then I wrote down. I was picking up on time travel data and portals, portal devices, not just a portal device. Okay. An actual that was shaped like a cube or a box. Okay. So there was an actual portal opening device, basically, is what I was picking up on. And then I was picking up on a lot of waves, and I actually wrote waves. It kind of looks like the ocean a little bit. I don't know if y'all can see this. Yeah. So I wrote down waves, and yeah, and there's some other little bit of other data, but that was the gist of the first session that I did on this target. There was clearly a lot of sound frequency stuff going on, frequencies, vibrations, a rumble and a roar, something about people, somebody taking over the world. Okay, and in the beginning of it, there was a lot of heavy judgment. I was clearly in the ocean there. Okay. There was clearly some ocean data going on there. But something about dominating, they're not taking this lightly. There was heavy judgment going on. I mean, it kind of correlates with that story of Zeus getting upset and pretty much causing an earthquake and destroying the continent, the island, to make it be sunk down into the bottom of the ocean. So that was the first session I did. Shall we go into the second session?
Go for it.
Let's go straight into it, because this stuff is wild. Okay, it gets more crazy, y'all. All right. So in the second time I went in, I was clearly going in a downward direction. Okay, and I actually drew that as my sketch, was falling down. Okay, like going down into the darkness. Okay. Now I was picking up on something that was blue, wavy, and wet. Okay, blue, wavy, wet. A ruckus was going on. It was very chaotic. I was feeling pressed, something cold. There was fluid all around me. Fluid. And I kept picking up on data that had to do with the gorge. Like, I wrote down Tallulah Gorge at some point, because that's like a waterfall that we have here in Georgia, in North Georgia. But I was picking up on a lot of water data, a lot of engorged, something that was engorged is what I wrote down. But I was definitely picking up on environmental type data. I wrote down cold pressed, ambiotic, pastime. I was picking up on bubbles. I wrote down bubble, an air bubble, a time bubble, and just bubbles. So I was writing down time bubble, air bubble, bubbles. I also wrote down biolocate. This is where it gets really freaking weird, because I wrote down, I kept seeing what I thought was a horse. Okay. But as I got into the target further, I realized this was not a normal horse. This was a human with a horse's head. Okay, so I was seeing chimeras, humanoid, and I wrote down humanoids and animals, humanoid animals. Okay, so I'm talking about like the Egyptian gods. Okay, what we would consider to be an Egyptian god, like a Horus, for instance, Anubis. I was seeing those beings tangibly at this location that I was remote viewing. But most notably, I picked up the first one I saw was a horse human, which is cool and super interesting because, Barry, you and I did a show where I had remote viewed a creature that our friend Jeremiah Fountain, his neighbor, had encountered that was a horse humanoid. And so going back and looking at this, I was like, wow, that's very similar to what Jeremiah had described. Now, it wasn't exactly this, but this is the closest thing I could find online to what I was seeing there.
And that's like similar to a minotaur, what's actually more of a bull. You know, it's interesting when you look up the story of the minotaurs, the females were supposed to not have horns. The female minotaur.
Oh, okay.
I find that interesting, you know. So would that make him look more horse-like? I don't know. I'm just something I was thinking about.
Yeah, you know what? That's a great point, because not only, okay, so I was looking up the minotaur, and I thought I had uploaded the picture. Once again, I forgot to get that one on here. But so minotaur is like it looks like a bull with a man's body, basically a human body, and which is, remember that picture that I showed everybody? Okay, so this is the statue that's down at the bottom of the ocean. I mean, that doesn't have to necessarily represent a bull or a cow. It could be a minotaur. Okay, because that's what I was seeing. Yeah. That is 100% absolutely what I was remote viewing, and it was a little confusing because I was 100%.
What an interesting picture that is there. Wow.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And how you said it was quite similar to that. Now, what you were seeing?
Yes.
Would it have a mane like that? Would they have manes like that?
It did. It was brown and white. I remember it being brown and white, and it looked like a quarter horse or something, but it wasn't a full horse. It had a human body. Wow. Yeah. So I don't know, y'all. This remote viewing stuff can be very interesting, right? So that's what I saw. And Long Island Bigfoot, thank you for that super sticker. That's awesome. Thank you so much. Yeah, so I was seeing that. Okay, but wait, there's more.
Yeah, so I'm still being quiet. Yeah, I'm still waiting.
Okay, so we have more. So I wrote down, okay, so I wrote down time container. I don't know what that is, but I wrote it down because I was picking up on a time bubble. And I've heard our friend Arkeem Ra mention a time bubble before. And so I'm not sure exactly what that is, but I've heard that term before. But I wrote down a time container, and I kept hearing clairaudiently, I was hearing time waits for no man. And then I heard, I wrote down, I was getting a whole lot of water data. So I was writing down like waterfall and gorges and like the Tallulah Gorge I told you about, because that's what I was seeing, because there was like a big waterfall, okay, that I was seeing, very similar to that. But I wrote down chimeras, multiple chimeras is what I wrote down, but something that was very large, okay, and I literally wrote down half animal, half human, and horseman and horsehead. That's what I wrote down. So, I mean, is that one of the claims, Barry? Because I don't know. I didn't read a whole lot about the chimeras. I've heard about mermaids potentially being in Atlantis, under the water there. I don't know about horsemen.
heard all sorts of things. You know, I heard often that there's supposed to be reptilians there, and the brothers from Triangulum Galaxy on the Lemurian side, and that they were warring. And so
Hmm.
I mean, so you got all sorts of different things that we hear, but that there I think is fascinating. What you said you saw, and concerning you mentioned time bubble, a time bubble. What a time bubble actually is, definitely to my knowledge anyway, would be like from the current modern time generators. They have warp generators, which actually use like a rotating field and create a type of a plasma bubble. Okay, that then have these antenna that are firing these high lasers into them, which take us into circulating light beams. Whoa, takes us into circulating light beams. But that actually is actually a bubble that they use, and they use the lasers to also accelerate and deaccelerate the time bubble itself. So it becomes an issue of what all can survive in the time bubbles and what tests they can do on the time bubbles that conform to the grandfather paradox and all these different things. That's when it comes to real time generators that are using these quantum computers and stuff. So what you're saying there, you were seeing in the past was something quite similar. And I often wonder how often this is us right now, these private sectors using this technology going back trying to F with stuff. You know, the other target that we'll do that was to me even more as a fascinating or more fascinating than this one, and that's coming up a lot. And what you were seeing a lot or was implying that there's attempts to either colonize out there or be part of a colony out there. But we'll talk about that another day.
Oh man. Are you talking about the other target that I did for you too?
Number two,
Okay.
yeah,
Well, we
yeah.
can mention it if you want. It's no secret. It doesn't have to be. But it was
Okay.
off planet. It was off planet. And that was a cool
Yep.
one.
The other target was Proxima Centauri B, which is in the Alpha Centauri constellation there, but it's the exoplanet that's in the Goldilocks zone. And there's reasons that I wanted you to do that one is because one is they're finding also there have been reports that the James Webb Telescope had seen what appear to be lights on that planet. And that's been reported by Earth Files, and other people have been talking about that. And then there's something else. There's a gentleman that I very much looked up to, Dr. Delbert Blair. And Dr. Blair was at a conference many years ago, decades ago, at a George Adamski conference. And during this conference, he got approached at the end of it by these two melanin dominant individuals, ethnic, and they were telepathically talking to him, overwhelming telepathy. And they said they were from Alpha Centauri, straight up. So
Well,
those reasons, and I don't know, I haven't talked to Tony about this or anybody, see what they're saying, SSP, if any of them are aware of going out there. Haven't seemed to hear much about it, but I'm not that informed on SSP stuff. So, but nonetheless, I think it's interesting because you were picking up on that target, something could conform to that. So anyway, enough of that. Let's go back to Atlantis and the fact that, I've had when dealing with Atlantis, I've had many clients now that's come up in hypnosis and also in readings I've done. But, a lot of times it will be a client that might have a past life that they have a trauma they're trying to relieve and it's associated to drowning. And they'll describe something like that, describing drowning in what appears to be Atlantis or one of these other settlements that went through this cataclysm and underwater sunken destruction. Enough to
wow.
give them a fear of water and a problem with water this lifetime. It's amazing how we incarnate with these things. They follow us from the soul matrix all the way into another body and then store in our organs. It is what it is. Anyway, sorry. I don't
Yeah.
want to get all weird
I
talking
mean,
about weird stuff.
a lot of people in the chat tonight too. I've been contacted personally today by people who have been telling me that they have past life memories or they've done past life regressions, and they lived in Atlantis. I feel like I have a connection to Atlantis in some way as well. So
And
a
even
lot of
just
those.
talking about the ones we mentioned, the places that have already sunken, Nan Madol, Lemuria, Atlantis, this peninsula over there that Samar's just talking about. We have these places, even what Mu might be. And I want to give a shout out to this guy. All right. The brother's name is James Hardy. He sent me a couple of emails. I got to get back with him. Cool individual. But he sent me some things to where on the satellite, he thinks he's found ruins of Mu in the Pacific Ocean. And he's saying nobody will listen to him. And he sent me some pictures. So, and that's something that's going on. Maybe he just talked to Randall Carlson. So I don't know, Mu, because sometimes Mu gets written off as strictly fantasy like Atlantis too. But it'll probably think so. Something else going on there. Maybe it was there and not on the transatlantic ridge, like I've been saying Atlantis was. Who knows? Maybe it's two different colonies. Can't tell. We get so much caca stuff made up and fed to us, we don't know. Anyway, sorry. You were saying something, I think, and I interrupted very early.
Well, it's just we hear a whole lot. I mean, just in the location alone of nobody knowing the location of Atlantis. I mean, I know it may sound totally out there, but like we said in the beginning of the show, I was just kind of saying it theoretically. What if there were a bunch of Atlantean civilizations, and there wasn't just one? But I don't know. I mean, I was remote viewing this one, and I did get a good bit of data, and yeah, I mean, whatever I was remote viewing was real.
Oh, this one, yeah,
definitely. It was for sure. And it has horsemen on it. Okay, so
yeah, wow, that's another type of chimera. More of these experiments going on, but I guess it shouldn't surprise us that much, And that, I mean, that settles it, because the fact you were seeing that, you in no way knew that there were even legends attached to this thing or anything. You know what it was.
I had a set of numbers. Okay.
And if that wasn't that location, there wasn't something that location, you wouldn't have seen that either with those coordinates. So I mean, that's where it changes things from being so much supposition and fantastical to being more reality,
Could be.
And technology, that's what I was really like, whoa, okay. And you started commenting on that data before you didn't know what I was even looking for, so well done again.
Thank you. Robin has a great point. Star forts. Okay. More than one location. She agrees. Multiple locations. Star forts everywhere. Do you think that's star forts? Now, are you familiar with star forts, Barry? I've done a show on star forts.
I don't want to sound undereducated, but no, I'm afraid that one eludes me. What is a star fort?
A star fort. Well, I did a show with Jesus Payan Jr. He was the one that brought them all to my attention. We have star
TV
forts.
guy. That's TV guy, right?
Yeah, Breaking Bad. Yes, he's on Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad. So he brought it to my attention. I was like, okay, let's do this show on it. We have forts. Well, we're told that they are forts. Okay, like army forts, military forts, all over like the coast of the United States and stuff. I mean, the Statue of Liberty is actually built on a star fort. Okay, we have star forts all along the coast mostly, but they're all over the world. They have star forts in Japan, all over Europe. They're everywhere, and they're shaped like stars, like sacred geometry, kind of. Okay, beautiful. They look like snowflakes and stars, but all of them are very unique. And
how big are they?
They're big. Some of them are gigantic. Some of them are smaller. It just depends.
So they're patterns?
They're patterns. Yeah. I can't believe you don't know about star forts. Yeah.
No, I'm sorry. I can't know it all, my friend.
That would be that. I'm just saying that would be a great remote viewing target. Is the origin of these star forts, because we're told that they were army forts, aren't for our military or whatever, to protect us from invaders and stuff. But I think there's way more to it. I think there's way more to it than that. But that's something else.
So this is the pattern that these houses are constructed in, is what you're saying.
Yeah, they look like stars. Yeah, absolutely. I would try to pull them up, but my computer is acting so crazy tonight, and I don't want to. I've already lost everybody on Facebook. So better not get too crafty over here tonight. But yeah, that's something else to look into. We'll look into star forts here in the future. But yeah, I think there's a connection, and who's to say, like, how do we know how old these star forts were or are today? I think that there's a timeline deception going on. That's my opinion. Okay, it's my opinion. There's a whole lot of buildings and structures that have been repurposed, and then we're told that they were one thing, but they actually were probably used for something else, and they're probably a whole lot older than what we're told.
Well, I did not agree with that, and there's no doubt about that. There's so much little weird symbolism that is tied into everything that we have, and just things daily. Like I've had people have dispute with me before because I would make comments. If you should never really put a welcome mat on the front of your house. Welcome
No,
mat. Don't do
no,
it.
unwelcome at my house.
If you have one of those newer houses that actually has a front door that doesn't have the cross on it. Do you know what I'm talking about? You notice that a lot of front doors have a cross on them that's built into the woodwork. And I'm not a religious person, but those are supposedly blessings that are going to keep negative entities out of your house. And when you put down a welcome mat, it's just like, Bela Lugosi couldn't come in the crib unless you invited him, and there you go. So
Black-eyed children.
Yeah, you won't find one of those. You won't find a welcome mat in front of my crib, I guarantee you.
Shoot, no. Actually, I saw a sign that said unwelcome. That looks like a welcome sign, but it's unwelcome. And I was like, dude, I got to get that. Okay. Because nobody, do not knock on my door, man, unless I know you're coming. Do not. We're not going to answer. Sorry. Just that. That's the way we roll.
Interest similarity with the black-eyed children. Whenever one of them knocked on the door, they was always begging to come in and asking for permission to come in. Just one of those things to be aware of,
Yes. Okay, I wanted to mention this. Somebody had just said probably portals, and that's a great point. Oh gosh, if I can find here it is. Okay, Gaia Love one. The star forts could have been. I don't know if you're referring to the star forts or not, but when I had our Kim on the show and I had remote viewed jump gates to Mars and to Venus that the CIA allegedly might have or use. But he had mentioned that in front of a lot of these hotels where there are alleged jump rooms, they have they have stars in the marble out front on the sidewalks and stuff, like in the foyer of the hotels and on the sidewalks outside. And the CIA actually has a star. If you look at a picture, you can look up online. It's like the foyer of their office building has a big star on it. It looks like a nautical star, something that's just looks like a nautical star of some sort. But what if that is a representation of what these star forts are? I don't know. I'm just putting it out there. So yeah, it's super interesting. Just putting it out there. Food for thought, Barry. Food for thought.
Yeah, I hear you.
There's some kind of connection. I mean, why wouldn't there be portals? I mean, because if the Atlanteans were highly advanced, highly advanced, right? I mean, do you think that they were even from this planet? Do you think that they came and they relocated from another galaxy somewhere? I mean, what is your opinion on that?
I think they're a part of you have the thing with right now is the word that just thrown around so much is that damn Anunnaki. When the truth is, I mean, you've got so many different star nations, star civilizations that have come here and done breeding projects with us that it's off the charts. Especially when you look at the construction, we start dealing with extragalactic contact. A whole nother thing is going on. And that's not being acknowledged a lot by the mainstream or by ancient aliens or nothing else. They're sticking with the series, the Anunnaki, where you got the Anunnaki, you've got the Greys, you got the Reptilian. And the truth is, they can't even tell you what the Anunnaki, who they were. Was they the Black Brothers? Was they the White Cats? They don't even know. Okay? Who are the cats that came from Triangulum? Were those Anunnaki? We don't even hear about them. 25 feet tall. You don't hear about that. So that's a problem I have. So we don't know. So you've got that, and you've got all these hybrids and these civilizations that came up, stuff like, I'm gonna refer back again to that Urantia book, because I'm known to have a problem with that book based on what it says racial wise inside of it. It's crap. But that is to stop somebody like me from reading it. You understand? So when it starts talking about, though, these different, what we would call them star beings, whatever, that came here, they talk about the different lineages that came here and the lineages that they started here. And they have a part in that book. In that video, I go over it on my YouTube channel under book reviews. Check out the one I did over Göbekli Tepe and the Urantia book. Okay, that's that. It's just they say these things in there that go along with what we see on a lot of these Sumerian texts. I mean, it's mistakenly close. And we're talking about giants. And in that book, it talks about how Adam and Eve have this default, and when they default, all right, that the germplasm of Adam, aka Inky, had to be given to like 63 women to try to keep the plasma going, because it was burning out and it was degrading already, becoming more mortal-like. Okay, and so when you look at the Sumerian text, you have a deal where Inky is sitting there, and you have an individual bringing him what appears to be a woman that would stay at about the cusp of my arm, about right here, and appears to be giving him as an offering. And then behind them are these big old test tubes, and there's this dude standing like on his knees doing levers. That's genetic science. You're seeing it right there. And then in that book they say how they call Adam and Eve the material sons and gods, material son and daughter that are dispatched to every mortal planetary sphere that reaches a certain part of evolution. Does not call them the first people. It calls them biological uplifters, and say that they have to go through a training on the planet they come from, around the galactic center. Idyllic is what they called it. And then they go through a training when they get here before they can take stewardship of the planet. They go through this training, learning everything about the planet. And on that, and on those hieroglyphs, the Sumerian hieroglyphs, you have Inky standing on these steps, and it's like he's going through this training, and they have this waterfall with him with these fish. And I'm telling you, that's showing, I think that's supposed to be like sperm. It's showing you what that book is saying. So I'm not saying the Urantia book is the overall, but it can't be just dismissed. There's some things in there that are so technical that we can kind of find that are relating to things we've seen. So it talks about the type of Adamites that made Göbekli Tepe and went to that area. Okay, they talk about the birds that fly, and that these other beings were using these fan doors, these large birds, to fly and to transport. And then you see in the Göbekli Tepe, you've got some of these what appear to be these individuals riding these birds, but their heads have been cut off. They don't have them; their heads are missing. It's just little stuff like that. I think we're looking for truth. We need to look into a little more deeply. So I'm not just pro Urantia all the way, but there's some stuff in there that is worth looking at. So go to my YouTube channel, anybody, when this is over, playlist, book reviews, and check the ones out that have the Urantia title in it. All the way down to is Sasquatch Sporedo. That's another one, another type of creature they talk about in there that just, I don't know, food for thought.
Wow. Barry, I tried to read the Urantia book. My mom gave me the Urantia book. It is like this thick. It's so big. It's a huge book, but it's super. I need to get back to reading that thing. I really do, because I never read. I couldn't read all the way through it, especially not at the time. But it's worth the read, huh?
I will say this. It's somebody laid that on me when I was a freshman in high school. A musician that played with my brother. He said, "I've been watching you a long time, but since I was a stranger, you wouldn't talk to me." He said, "But I know you're one of them." I said, "What do you mean one of them?" He said, "I know you have memories and things that don't go along with school and stuff like that." He said, these books will do something for you. You'll recognize these." And the book he lays on me was one, the Urantia book. Another one was Initiation by Elizabeth Hayes. And the third was Edgar Cayce over Atlantis. 3 books. And I devoured the first 2 in a matter of very quickly. It was a pretty quick read. But the Urantia book, it took me about a year to get through that one. I read it twice in high school. maybe over a year. It was very thick. And the latter part of it gets to me a little bit boring and redundant. And it's so based on Christian based and religious based that part turns me off. I don't have a religion that's only for God, for me, a creator. But when you get the first part of the book, when it talks about universal structure, and the word Urantia means earth, the history of earth as far as geological, and the beings that have come here that are higher race beings, like the planetary prince, Adam and Eve. It talks about all these different beings, that a lot of them non-corporeal, that came here. And when they actually have this offspring with other non-corporeal beings that are earth awareness, and they start having these things that they call midwayers, primary and secondary midwayers. And when you read what they say about the secondary midwayers being not material, but able to materialize material wise and interact with mortals and influence them, boy, it sounds a lot like the jinn. A lot like the jinn. Just saying. Food for thought. There's all videos, all that on my channel, so I'll shut up about that. That having nothing to do with Atlantis, probably. I'm getting too far away. So reel me back in, Jones. You always do that.
No. The Girl of the Gong, Maureen actually said that the Urantia book is on audiobook. Okay, so for anybody who is too busy to sit down and read it, we can listen to it in our earbuds while we're doing laundry and driving around, whatever we need. So that's a great pointer there. So thank you. Pro tip. I like pro tips.
And the word Urantia, Urantia, is supposed to mean earth. So technically, it's the Earth book. And when they talk about the not just galactic structure, but also angelic structure, seraphim structure, and earth angelic seraphim structure, it's really interesting. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, so, super interesting.
Yeah, some of the words are far out. You know, there are words like Urantia and weird ass words. We're strange words that make you just whoo when you're reading it a little bit. But once you get past that and learn what they're actually saying, like for example, they'll call our higher self, our divine over self, our superconscious, the thought adjuster, and how we can merge with the thought adjuster and become one with the creator. Stuff like that. You know, again, food for thought.
I just told my son today he need an attitude adjustment. So I'm thinking attitude adjuster. Okay. But you're talking about thought adjusters. I like that. That's a cool concept. Sorry, I had to say that.
That kind of is actually, you know.
I had to say that.
That's showing that there's a divine plan and a divine field. A lot of people want to not admit that, but there really is. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, there absolutely is. I mean, so for one of our practice targets with my team, we were given a blind target of the fabric of the universe. Okay. So yeah. And we all met during that target. We were all together, remote viewing that as non-corporeal energy and stuff. It's wild. Listen, this remote viewing stuff can get really deep, everybody. Okay. So, but it was beautiful. It was very beautiful. So,
how important are we anyway? I mean, it's very fascinating because I think what you're doing is, and that part, the remote viewing part of addition with mediumship and psychic abilities is very important. You know, I'm not going into it. I was trying this exercise that was by T.H. Thine, Dr. Thine, and it was pranayama, and it's called the dog exercise. Now, it looks odd because you get all down, it's a pranayama breath deal, okay? You're on all fours, but it's very energizing, and it's just different. I've been trying that, and it makes you a little lightheaded, too. Once you get energized, really get a lot of prana going in your blood. And after that, I kind of was sitting in this dark room, I kind of like spaced out a little, and I caught these beings remote viewing me. I mean, I literally caught them. Like the way some people say they get caught when they're viewing the moon. Oh, that's what's that word, right? But when they say they're looking at it, Ingo Swann said that too. Vavinko told me that. John Vavinko, he said, I looked at those beings. Kelly Coffey said that too. I was looking at these beings and they start looking at me. They completely busted me. You know, so, but that's like I busted them. And, you know, they were in these pods, like these standing stations, kind of like the ones I've seen on some of these craft. They're kind of like not standing all the way up, but they're just like more of a standing cubby type of thing. And I caught them. They're like looking at each other like, oh crap, we got caught. So I'm wondering, how much is that the really communication when you start dealing with galactic civilizations is remote viewing, and remote viewing on each other, just dropping it, and it makes me wonder what all we're doing right now for Earth, how important it is for each one of us. And I can already
Mhm.
promise you through the regressions I've done that each one of us is much more important than you think. We're
Yes.
all fragments of the creator rediscovering ourselves. It's kind of a big deal. If I tell you I have a client, and without going into it, we talked about this last time, they were fracturing the individual soul, not just making hybrids of him with his DNA and sperm in other dimensions. Okay, they're also trying to get his body, his soul, his energetic body further away from his physical body during the abduction by taking the craft higher to see how far away they can get his physical body from the energy body, how far they can get it, and then trying to fracture it and put little parts of that into these hybrids in these different dimensions. And when overall, does that not sound just horrible? A horrible experience? That's why I asked them. I said, so would you, before I bring them out, would you consider this a negative or positive? Would you consider this a negative experience? Like, no, 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 no. Why? Well, because they're trying to develop compassion and love like we do. And they also want to know why, when we die, we go closer to the creator than they do.
Hmm.
Now, that alone says a lot about humanity and about what we're capable of. Beside all this crap we hear, all the negative stuff, on the positive side, it says something about us. And I said, well, what is they say? He says, well, they can love, but they love like earth animals. It's not the same. It's not the level that we do, no matter what the technology they have. They're not capable of that level of intense love. Food for thought again. I just throw it out there. I don't make the rules. I just have to observe it when I go through these sessions with people. I can't tell them, hey, I want it to be like this. It is what it is.
Man, well, that's the highest vibration is love. Okay, and we're capable of love and loving, and I strive to be in my highest vibration, and that's love. And some say that the opposite of love is fear. Okay, and so just let's try to stay out of the fear. Okay, the fear vibration. Uh, be less controllable. Okay, this is for entertainment purposes only. Right. But yeah, it's to live in love and gratitude and raise the vibration. And
You know,
Robin knows what's up. Keep shining, everybody. The world needs our light. That's right,
you, you,
Robin.
in those past life regressions, a lot of time, like I've said before, and I talked about this with Rob Bigfoot in Michigan today. There is a choice. People, there's choice to come back here when they incarnate. And I'll ask, what is it? What is the goal? What the goal of this incarnation? And they normally say the same. This is different people. They say to love and be happy. And I mean, that is the reason they're coming here.
Simple,
So,
right?
and to increase the love and increase happiness. Well, boy,
Mhm.
all I can say is, I mean, I don't say it during the regression. I want to say is buckle your seatbelt, because you're going to be in for a rough ride.
That's right.
But nonetheless, it's a noble reason why most of us come here. A lot of us, anyway. Those of us that aren't
Mhm.
bent on hate and those things. So anyway,
Well,
again, I feel like I'm getting away from Atlantis. So let's
I
talk
know.
about one other thing about Atlantis. All right,
Okay.
um, something that Edgar Casey had talked about, and I also saw it referenced in the Urantia book, and this would be what they're calling sleeping survivors, those that are of a higher, kind of advanced on the soul level, but during these cataclysms, they went into a type of a stasis. And supposedly a lot of these sleeping survivors are in the artesian well underneath the Great Pyramid. And that's where they are until the times of liberation, whenever that is. So again, that's food for thought as these books are talking about. But when I deal with the amount of people that have a memory of being in that drowning like that, and I had one person that seemed to remember being in some type of a stasis bubble of some type until it was time to go to do this and this and then reincarnate. So, how much of that is valid? You got to really look at these things. So just food for thought on the sleeping survivors.
Well, that's interesting because there was so much bubble data for both of these sessions that I did on this target. A lot of time bubbles. I forgot there's just bubbles. I was got a whole bunch of bubble stuff. Air bubbles, time bubbles, bubbles, double bubbles.
I have past life memories of there being 2 moons on this planet, and something happened to one of them. All right. And when I started finding out some of these legends in the Kemetic population about what happened to Atlantis and Lemuria, that they were warring, and that one of the moons was brought in with a tractor beam, and then like shot with some type of a high energy beam that crushed it, and it came down, was supposed to like rain down on Lemuria. And it's a battle between Atlantis and Lemuria. And what happened was actually the heated fragments destroyed the firmament of the planet. Unexpected destruction. So again, and I sent you a picture that I don't know if it went by through email or not, but it was actually somebody actually putting a picture, a drawing of that, and one of these moons getting crushed. I just find that interesting because, I'm always searching for past life memory validation of things because we don't know, and when you're a kid, you don't think it's real, but you find out these memories you have are, you know what I mean? Especially when you go into school wanting to hear about it and they're talking about Christopher Columbus. That's not what I'm looking. I'm looking for the cataclysm. Where are we talking about that? Stuff like that. You'll never come up.
I mean, a lot of the stuff that we talk about is not in our history books, and nobody's going to tell us this stuff. And maybe that's why, that some of these videos get real popular with the remote viewing, because when all options, like nobody's telling us what's going on, nobody's telling us the truth. And I always tell everybody, go with your gut. Okay, go with your gut. If you're having visions of something or you're getting downloads, go with that. Go with it. If it feels right, if you're on that frequency, you're getting messages. But I'm putting my spiritual gifts out there for the world to see. Okay. And let me tell y'all, I was very hesitant to do this at first. I never wanted to go public with my remote viewing because if y'all can't tell, I don't know if y'all follow me or not, I get attacked all the time. Okay. I get attacked. I get told, people make videos about me, say that I'm getting all my information from the computers and stuff. Well, I mean, okay. Okay.
Something else was you touch on just real quick. I know you're talking about, when you became a remote viewer, it wasn't just one workshop. It wasn't just something you read online. You trained for a long time, didn't you?
Years. Yes, years. Years.
That's heavy. I think people need to know that. It's not just something that you picked up. You're not just astral seeing things. It's cool because I'm a psychic and a medium, and sometimes we'll match up the data that we have and see how similar it is. What you're doing is a scientific system, though. It's different. You got trained. You had to go through training. It wasn't quick. It wasn't easy. And some of these people out there calling themselves remote viewers aren't. They're just doing astral seeing. That's it. Sorry. Please keep going. But I mean, I think you need to get credit where it's due. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, that's okay. And it's okay because I want to encourage everybody to use those gifts, and if it's just a word, it's just a phrase, remote viewing. Okay. Anybody can do it. Now there's just the types of remote viewing I've trained in for a long time. I don't get mad or upset about it. If people say they're remote viewing, because we need to, no matter what you call it, let's use our gifts. God gave us gifts. Let's use them and look into stuff. But yeah, the type of remote viewing I do is different than what a lot of people would consider remote viewing. So, and so maybe that's where a lot of these attacks come from. I don't know. I don't know. I think it's just a lot of people that are uneducated about it and I don't want to call people ignorant. I'm just saying, they don't know what I'm doing. So anyone who wants to attack me, I would love for you guys to go give me and the whole public a course on remote viewing for me.
Wasn't somebody mad at you because you didn't show videos of real aliens running around in the mall? Because obviously you were there with your cell phone and you got some pictures of the real aliens running around, and that's what remote viewing is. Yes, definitely. I gotta poke you just a little bit. Okay. Are you sure that you never get upset Even when somebody puts up
Okay.
a fake book about remote viewing, are you sure?
Busted. Okay, busted.
Okay,
I
I had to
wasn't
tease you a
mad.
little.
I just thought it was funny. Okay. Just thought it was funny. That's all.
The only word I could use, you look on your face and your body language, is appalled. You were truly appalled.
Okay, Mary.
If it was Rocky, you're appalling Creed. I'm sorry.
No. No, well, that's because you and I were standing beside each other. Okay, so we were side by side. It was funny. Okay. Um, but it's okay. It's but people fear what they don't understand. Okay, and so that's why I listen. Anyone who's attacked me, I forgive you. Okay, I forgive you. You know not what you do, and that's fine. It is what it is. We're in a new age where we need to hone in on our enhanced human capabilities. We all need to do this because we don't know what the heck's going on. We're not going to be told the truth. Okay, we have to decide the truth for ourselves. We have to feel it. We have to live it. We have to experience it. Okay, and I'm here putting out my data for everybody, and we're sharing our knowledge with everybody. But I mean, there's going to be a day where we may not have internet service, and we're going to have to make all these decisions on our own. We're going to have to go with our gut on our own. All of us. We're not going to have anybody to look up to or ask. There's no Wikipedia, when the power's out, and stuff like that. So, but it's just important. Okay. So, yeah. And that's why I love everybody that watches my shows, everybody that's here. Adolf, I just read your story. That is crazy. That's wild. Not on the door.
I think you're doing good work, and I think you're doing work. I enjoy working with you. I said I don't go into detail because I've worked with several people in this community now. I didn't just come forward a few years ago. It's been 10 years for me now. And I worked with a lot of these people, and some of these people are absolute snakes. And they will stab you in the back. They're worried about being rich and being a couple guys told me, I don't even care about being rich. I just want to be famous. Whoa. For seeing UFOs,
Oh man,
being a
right?
contractor, you want to be famous. That's what this is about. Okay, but working with you is fun. You like me, you do it because it's fun. The negatives haven't fully ruined it yet, and it also is information needs to get out. You're addressing just us, and you're doing a lot more work than with just me, but you're dealing with these different topics that broaden the perspective of things, like Mel's hole. No one I know would remote viewed it before. So these things are kind of, I think, trend setting is a pretty good word, I think. So I commend you for that. And I love your audience. They're very nice. I've come on here and rambled before, and they don't even throw no carrots at me or nothing. So that's pretty cool.
Well, I do want to make it. I want to make a note of something real quick. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I do want to make a note. It's like nobody else on my remote viewing teams are really public with this. Okay. And it's something I never meant to be public. I didn't want to go public with the remote viewing. And so, but I did because I felt called to do it, and I was thrusted out on the stage to do it. And so here I am. Okay. And so, but I do this because I know it's helping people. Okay. And I don't ever claim to have any answers to anything, but if we can just kind of put our energy out there, and, I know people ask me almost every day, am I ever going to teach remote viewing? Man, I could probably do that. I probably could. And I probably should. I haven't had time.
When the time is right, you'll do
it. But when the time is right, I will. I know. But listen, I'm not one of those people that's in this to make a ton of money. I mean, I'd like to make some money doing what I do. I put so much energy into all this stuff that I do, but it's not about that for me. Okay. It's really not. And I didn't go looking for a podcast.
Honestly, I mean, unless you're one of these unique individuals talking about some damn blue avians, I don't see how anybody gets rich in any of this stuff. Everything you're putting money into it and not even breaking even, unless you're talking about some blue avians and making stuff up or whatever the case is. And that becomes everything starts getting really skewed at that point. And this is the point is, and it's hard for me I'm still fathoming that the first time we met was your first conference or anything you've done something like that.
I had never spoken publicly ever.
You did a great job. You did a great job,
Thank you.
But you had a lot of field work behind you already. Mm-hmm. So I didn't know that until you told me that, was a few months ago or whatever. that was your first one. So that's really cool, and
Yeah.
it means, that's when it's very worthy. You've got a really cool audience and an open-minded, sharp audience, which is super cool.
Thank you. I have the best audience, man. We have so much fun in here, and I just appreciate the support that everybody gives us, and just people being here tonight. We had a huge audience tonight. Man, I think we hit 200 tonight live, so that's a lot.
Oh, that's cool.
For our channel, yeah.
Cool.
I say our channel. It's our channel. It's everybody's channel over here. And I'm super excited. I'm super excited to be here. This is a great target.
I wonder how many in the audience right now are those that have dealt with past life memories of Atlantis and resonate with that. I bet you there's several of them in the audience right now, looking at this thing right there.
Yes.
It's interesting. Alex Collier is one person, but a person I did a bunch of work with, Fleur Burton was her name. She's got a huge following. She actually held 2 of the melanin dominant UFO contactee conferences. I spoke at both of them. But her and several others claim to be in contact with Andromedans. And they're different than the Andromedans he mentions. I've had interactions with these Andromedans, one that looked like brown cats with these pair heads, these brown beings with these pair heads, another ones that looked like they were like these little blue beings. And the closest thing I've seen to a gray, but they weren't grays, they were blue, with these blue. And I've got all that on my channel. You can look that up under personal contact. So it's interesting when dealing with that. And going forward to what that person said. The individuals that were communicating with some of these individuals from Andromeda that they claim were melanin dominant females said that they were like mer people. Some of them. Others were warriors, but others were described as being fish people, mermaids, mer people. So it's just, food for thought once again, because that takes us into, you've got others that are described as that Nomo, although the Nomo were from Sirius, not Andromeda. But it's interesting, to hear that what they said.
Whoa.
It makes sense. What they said, it makes sense to me.
And you and I just did a show on the mer people and sea creatures on Spaced Out Radio last Sunday night. So that's kind of cool how it's kind of connected to the Atlantean target that I did today. So super
Boom,
cool
that's
stuff
right there. Victor, right on. Maybe check out Victor, check into getting a regression or something and find out. It might be connected to a past life and you're still carrying it. What you're just describing there is what others have told me. So yeah, definitely check into it.
Yeah, a lot of connection with Lemuria on here, and Kira, Kira, thank you for being here tonight, Kira. Kira's my star sister. Yeah. So she says that people that she meets say that they remember her from that lifetime on Atlantis.
I'll tell you, Kira has these really beautiful, big, like aquamarine eyes. Yes. She looks like she could see underwater. I'm not even kidding around. She's got these really beautiful, big eyes. When you meet her in person, that's the first thing that strikes you about her. And she's psychic too, so she can see. So I would believe that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, okay. So this is interesting. I don't know if you and I have talked about this, but I've talked about this before, where some people potentially could be descendants of like a lineage of, let's just say, mer people, Sasquatch, dogmen. That comes up kind of sometimes whenever we're talking about lineages and people that are here to protect certain cryptids and stuff like that. So, well, I don't know. What do you think about that? Do you think that some of us could be, let's just say I'm a descendant of a Sasquatch family or something. We can reincarnate, right?
It kind of blows the mind a little bit. A while ago, it's probably been like maybe over a year ago now. I'd send it to you and some other people. It was the guy who Cam that talks like that. He's a Bigfoot cat. Dixie Cryptid, maybe. I think he does really good stuff. Yeah, he's cool. He tells really great stories, and he had told a story, and it was from a Native American story that the guy had wrote in and said that he had seen Sasquatch several times. And one time he saw these Sasquatch and playing with letting these babies play, and it was baby Sasquatch and these other babies that he described as looking like gray babies, hybrid babies. and that there was a Sasquatch mother watched them, and they're playing together. And I think this gentleman was literally describing one of these hybrid type of project things. I mean, it's not just crap, because you've seen stuff like that, these chimeras and all that stuff, and these abominations being made. Well, I guess I don't know what to call them now, because we're going that way now. But wow.
Yeah. Cosmic Crystal knows you.
Oh, there's the name. Yeah, there it is. Oh, God.
Right.
Like I said, there's some people I won't work with anymore. It is what it is. Anyway, where are we at now?
Oh, well, we're just talking about the lineages of the cryptids, and yeah, I mean, some people, I don't want to make this connection really of like how people died and stuff like that and how they act today, but I mean, some people that love to get in the water, maybe they were a mermaid in a past life. We joke around with our kids like, hey, you must have been a mermaid. You like to swim a whole lot. Maybe they were mermaids in a past life.
That's not so far out. What happens when, like for me, what happens when I'm doing a regression with somebody, like a past life regression, and they're sitting there talking about, and you think it's going to be, their last incarnation was here on Earth. You expect to hear something like that. And they don't say that. They talk about incarnating into Mars, living underground as some type of an insect, advanced insect. I mean, you have to just accept that. And it's somebody that's sitting there that isn't into the stuff we're talking about right now. They're not into the Mars thing. They're not into the UFO thing. They're into like yoga, veganism or whatever, but they're not into that. And then that stuff comes up involuntarily during a past life regression. You have to just accept it. You know what I mean? And it makes you reevaluate everything, because you mentioned, I don't know if it was you mentioned feeling like you had incarnated on Mars. Mm-hmm. Talking to Tony about the cool interview, like 2-hour interview him and I did that nobody heard, that just disappeared. He don't even know what happened to it. But we talked a lot about Mars and about his experience with 2 different type of insectoid beings there. There's a video on my YouTube channel, one of the more recent ones, called Insectoid and Insectoids Part 2. Insectoids Part 2, I show a couple of pictures that Tony gave me that were what he said the insects that he encountered on Mars look like. And I hear about these other things on Mars. And I also just did a video, it's on my Patreon, maybe I'll release it to YouTube. And it's connecting the Olmecs, if you know who they are, the Olmecs and the Cydonia region of Mars. It shows that the Olmecs, with their engineering skills, were also on Mars. And if you look at that face of Mars, look at the helmet on it. It looks Olmec-like. And there was a gentleman that wrote a book called the Cydonia Codex, and also the Mars Codex, long time ago. And he was doing the mask and the carvings and illustrations from the Mayan temples, like the Belize, the Jaguar mask and the Venus mask, and comparing it to also the face of Mars and putting it in the Cydonia complex and things. So, it's things like that we don't always see that need to really be looked at. Mm-hmm. Who all did and where it was inhabiting Mars.
Yeah. Well, this is another rabbit hole. Okay. Moon at Noon says, is Lemuria Tartaria? Oh,
that's
man.
A good question.
That's a good question.
That's one for that guy, isn't it? The guy from the movies. He knows all about Tartaria, doesn't he? Is that right?
Who? What guy?
The guy from Breaking Bad. Did he know all about the Tartaria?
Oh, yeah, Jesus. Yeah. I mean, Tartaria had all the architecture with the free energy and stuff, and the giants. Yeah, I've done a couple of shows on stuff that has to do with Tartaria, but a lot of it, I think the shows I've done talked about the giants. Okay, so there were giants. What happened to the giants? That's a good question. Where did all the giants go?
I'm glad somebody says that. That individual didn't discover that. That was discovered in the Cydonia complex. I'm not gonna go into that anyway. I don't know. I mean, it's just people get credit for things they didn't really find, And I think that the people that are owner that define this, like M.K. Davis never gets the credit he should get.
Oh, I
He
love
just kind of
MK.
just gets railroaded. And I
I know.
find it so interesting that he showed you the videos. You saw the real ones that prove what you and I talked. That was one of the first targets I gave you
Yes,
was the
Patty.
massacre of Patty.
Well,
What happened? You saw it.
it was the target of the video of Patty walking, and it turned out she was being shot at. And about 2 weeks ago, I went to the East Alabama Town Hall, sponsored by Squatch Seekers of the South. Okay, I had a great time there. Met Connor Flynn and Tyler Howell, and MK Davis was there, and Flat Rock, and all sorts of great people. Yeah, we had a great time. But MK did a presentation. It was the best presentation on Bigfoot I've ever seen. I've seen a lot of people, big names, big people that everybody knows, give presentations on Bigfoot. That was the best one I'd ever seen. Okay, and so yeah, he showed the video. He actually had the videos of. In case you guys are wanting to see this, you can go to my remote viewing playlist here on my channel, the Cryptid Huntress, and you can find it. It's I think we called it. We didn't call it Patty. It was Bluff Creek Bigfoot, remote viewing Bluff Creek Bigfoot. But there's a video that leads up to the Patty video, and it's of a smaller, like juvenile size Sasquatch that was running around, and a gentleman shot it like 5 times, I think. And then it goes to the next video of, I think Patty, you could see it laying in a ditch, and Patty's bent down over it. And then she gets up and starts walking as soon as they start filming her. Okay, so that's the video that I saw, and yeah, it's basically exactly what that remote viewing data said was. I saw it in the video, so I got confirmation that we were right. Yeah.
And didn't you said, I'm sorry, cut out a little bit there for a second. Did you mention that you saw actually her child being killed or whatever?
No, I didn't. Well, I saw something. I saw something. I saw the other Sasquatch being running around, and it was being hunted down, basically. Yeah.
And I think even on
So,
MK's channel, you can still pull up. You search on there, you can find the one that's got the dog licking the blood, the pool of blood, and people are trying to say later, "Oh no, it's just
it was there.
the
Yeah.
thing to contrast. He's all wrong." No, it was
No,
wrong.
I
That's
saw
one
it.
of the hunters they brought in.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's that's a shame, but it's good to get facts. I think at a certain point, definitely.
Yeah.
That question there, okay, or that statement. I've had actually 3 or 4 clients now that were not into Sasquatch stuff and Bigfoot
Mhm.
stuff, but Sasquatch comes up during their session, hypnosis session. Like one is someone that lives somewhat close to me, a few hours away, but it's not a place where you would think they have Sasquatch activity. And when I first do a reading with this individual, before we ever did hypnosis, I'm picking up Sasquatch stuff. They have no interest in that, know nothing about it. And then during the regression, it's coming out the Sasquatch they've seen several times on their property. One was masking to looking like a type of a large dog with the hair coming down on all 4s, super huge. And he's different things and doing things with the individual's mind to mask some things. But there's also a portal on their property. But around where they live, in my area, in my state that should not have any Sasquatch activity, there are a lot of caves there.
Oh,
And the
yeah.
individual is telling me when they're really deep, they're saying, well, the Sasquatch, they use the caves to teach the young ones how to manifest.
How to manifest. See, they're working on their enhanced Sasquatch capabilities.
So the young ones can't
So
control
that's
it.
good.
And their
Yeah,
invisibility, they practice it in the caves. They don't live there, but they use it for portals and to practice.
that's
And I mean, you can't.
awesome.
Where does that come from? There's just somebody even into this stuff. And you say that's like, that's like me saying, hey, the green jolly giant from the canister is real. I mean, this comes out of like nowhere,
Right.
or another one that I mentioned before. I won't go into that. Having a past life regression, live between lives. When the guide comes, the guide is not a person; it's some type of a Sasquatch.
Oh,
And not like
wow.
the ones we
So,
hear about. It takes them to this place of translation and reconfiguration I mentioned before, that the guide takes the person to, that normally has ledgers or books or some way that they go over the current life the person has, and the other ledgers, and meaning all these other lives, but they go over the one that's for this life before they actually reincarnate. But normally that place of translation and reconfiguration is like an office or a library, or even sometimes a nature setting or something like that. This wasn't. This was a ship, a huge ship that's looking at different universes outside the space-time continuum. And the guide is some type of a huge Sasquatch with a uniform on that would make Star Trek look silly. I mean, like I say, you have to deal with that, and you start dealing with concepts like, I mentioned this before, so I don't want to sound redundant, but the blueprint of humanity is called the Adam Kadmon, and that's supposed to be ultimately the blueprint for humanity, the humanoid form, Homo sapien type. And so when dealing with that, but what would be the Adam Kadmon for the Sasquatch species? Where does that nuclear DNA actually start on the galactic level? See, we don't really know. So again, I'll just throw that out there. Like I said, I don't make the rules. I just have to deal with the stuff I come up, the information I encounter during these sessions. It's blown me away and taking things to another level. I thought I knew some things, but some of that stuff doesn't prove true, or it goes so more expansive than you think it would. It just blows your perception wide open.
It does. Yeah. Because how would there's no connection there, otherwise when they're not under. So yeah, really interesting stuff, man. This is fascinating. I do want to make there's somebody in the chat that did wanted to make sure you were okay. Cosmic Crystal, when you made the statement about you don't work with people, she's never worked with you, so I just want to make it clear you weren't talking about her. Okay. So
what?
Cosmic Crystal here that you were. I just want to make sure you weren't talking, because she was.
How did I work with her? I never met.
No.
How did I work with her?
No. There was okay. Well, we won't go there, but you had mentioned that you just don't work with some people, and so making sure she wanted to make sure you weren't saying that about her, because she doesn't work with you and she's a fan. Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, I misunderstood. I thought they were like saying, no, I don't know. No, I was referring to somebody they had put the name of the individual up there. No, I didn't know if that was.
I just wanted to clear it up. Okay, I wanted to clear it up because I didn't want anybody to be upset. Okay, so Cosmic Crystal, thank you for being here tonight. Okay,
is that the person that put that name up there? Is that maybe the thing? No, not you. I don't know you, but I know that individual quite well, and that's what I mean. So not you.
Yeah,
I worked with him many times. Yeah, that's why.
Okay,
So that's why I'm not trying to slander anybody.
Into the show
too much mud being thrown in these, but all I will say is this: we must be very careful and use discernment where we get our information from. You know what I mean? And these people in the spotlight, some of them, like the individual that they named, are giving out misinformation. Like, for example, okay, now I will speak against this forever. These fools telling people, oh, don't go in the light when you die. It's a reincarnation cycle, yada, 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 yada. And they say all this stuff, and it gets in your mind and trains your mind, and it will make you make decisions when you're passing. You're so in shock already. You're thinking of these fools, and you don't go in the light. You become an earthbound spirit and get trapped here for year upon year. You see what I'm saying? So that is, and what happens when we go into the light too? What happens? I've seen a change happens. I've seen others come to help escort over. And it's amazing how these earthbound spirits can't see the portal, can't see the loved one standing there until you start talking about love and the love of the creator. And all of a sudden, and they start being able to see through the darkness. Why is that? You're supposed to go into light. And when you have discernment, when you're out of the body too, if it's your loved ones. What your loved ones feel like? They feel like just a holographic projection, or what they feel like. These are things that are real. So these people that give that disinformation like that based on three things before I even argue with them, and that individual that was mentioned would be one. One is, have you had a near-death experience in this body like I did? Almost bite the bullet, man, and you come back. All right. Number two, are you a psychic? Are you a medium? Not just a psychic, but are you a medium? Every medium is a psychic. Every psychic is not a medium. Straight up. They're two different gifts. So are you a medium? Number three, Have you worked with the earthbound population that's inside the energy field, like I've talked about, that expresses itself as behaviors, or even outside the energy field? Or have they even mentioned that? They even know about that. So we have to take that into account. What data do they have to support what they're saying at all? And telling people stuff like that. Very dangerous information. And I asked earthbounds before I go through the whole thing, how did you die? Hey, why did you not go into light? They'll tell you. They'll tell you. Sometimes it's I was scared, I was shocked. I hear this a lot too. Well, I hurt people a lot when I was alive. I hurt people in my business, or I killed someone, and I think the light is hell. I'm going to go in there and burn. You talk about auto-suggestion. The very suggestion of the hell is very powerful.
Well, I don't want to go there. Okay. I think I might have lived it here on Earth already. Okay. So, yeah, I think I've died many times too. So I think I'm going to know what to do when the time comes. I'm pretty sure I will. But yeah, it's a touchy, these things can get touchy when it comes down to it, because we are inundated with a lot of information from a lot of different people. I like to go with my gut and trust my own stuff, you know. But yeah, I feel you, Barry. I totally feel you, 100%. So yeah, well, I just appreciate everybody being here listening to us tonight. I know we got off a little bit on our subject of Atlantis, but in the end, it's all connected somehow.
Hey, once again, I want to throw this out. Apologies to that person thought I was just describing them. It wasn't them. It was the name they threw up. And it caught me off guard because I can't believe anybody knew who even one of these people were I was talking about. So it caught me off guard. So I didn't mean that at you. It was directed towards that person. So apologies you felt that way. But you caught me off guard with that. I try not to sling too much mud, but man, that one caught me.
Barry's gonna send you an autographed headshot now. Okay,
Oh,
I'm just
no,
kidding.
thanks. They need to break their mirrors in their house. They're all right.
Bring in headshot. You deserve it now, Barry. That's what you're gonna have to do. And if you get in trouble, I'm gonna make you send headshots that are autographed to people. Okay.
You know, who knows where it was good. There's several people that have said that, and they haven't had their stuff enough to come argue with me about it. But I will say this, I was just at a conference in Vegas, and as I'm leaving, getting on the elevator trying to get to the deal, these two older people are telling me, we just come from a conference. It's the one I spoke at. I said, oh, that's actually part of that. And they're looking at me, they go, the last speaker, I said, what's wrong? They just didn't resonate. I said, why? Mm-hmm. They were saying all this stuff about don't go in the light. And they this and that, and it just didn't feel right, what they were saying. And that individual avoided me like the Dickens that entire conference. See what I mean? So it's things like that. When you're giving out disinformation and you can't support what you're saying, somebody on the real will blast you.
On the real tip.
You know what I'm saying?
Right. I know what you're saying.
Chuck D style.
I know, right? You're gonna DDT somebody.
Just
Barry will clothesline you if you don't tell the truth, people. I'm just kidding.
No, it's not that. But I just want people just to be aware that's really a big one. And and I've had earthbounds tell me too, I didn't know what the light was, so I was scared, and I feel like I got cheated. I was only 22, I got cheated. Stuff like that. And it's just so it's things like that. I think it's good for us to learn. It makes one layer on this planet a little less, the layer of earthbound spirits, a little less. We've already got demonic walking around here like it ain't nothing. So, we don't need. Sorry.
Yeah, we do. Well, and a lot of soulless beings and stuff.
Hey, midnight watchers, you want some broken mirrors, man? Did you do the whole thing over mirrors and stuff, Jessica? They don't want no broken mirrors in their crib.
Magic mirrors. There's 7 years bad luck if it cracks. So we don't need that.
Right. I forgot about that. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, Barry, any final thoughts tonight on Atlantis and the remote viewing data that we got tonight?
I think it's fascinating. I think the Minotaur aspect or horse aspect, Chimera, the time technology you detected, all these things is fascinating because these are things you didn't know what you were looking at. And that's something I really wanted to know. Was there technology there that Plato wasn't describing? Is it more the technology there I've heard, through the Kemetic books and things? And that's what you showed it to be true, even a little more, so.
Yeah. Hey, I dig it, man. This is a great target. Super great target. All of my data is up on my Patreon. If you guys want to see it, y'all go become a member. I would love to have y'all. And yeah, and for anybody who tuned in late, I did in this target, I think it was on the second session I was picking up chimeras, particularly horse-headed men, okay, or women. They look like men, actually. The one that I saw was a man. So animal-headed humans, very much like ancient Egypt, Barry. So there's a connection to ancient Egypt in Atlantis, in my opinion.
The first were the Aboriginals were the first. The Raven tribe were talking about the relics they had that showed Egyptians were actually there with them, and that they were actually before the Egyptians. And since then, now we've got the Grand Canyon, all these other places you're seeing that the Egyptians touched down. So I think that's fascinating. So Atlantis would be nonetheless, and it sounds like Atlantis was much more advanced than Egypt even. So
yeah. Absolutely. Now, Victor is asking, was the horse I saw, could it have been a Pegasus? Well, it didn't have wings. It had a human body. And so it was a horse-headed humanoid. I actually wrote down humanoid, and I wrote down animal. And for the AOL, I wrote down horse-headed man. Horse, and then horse-headed man. Or horse-headed human. It was a man, and it looked like a regular horse, but it was on a man's body. And now the connection I make with that, and let me show that picture one more time. This is kind of a cool picture.
It is pretty cool.
It looked like that, but I feel like it had clothes on. I remember it wearing clothes, which is odd. Not a suit and tie or anything. You know what I mean? It was just some kind of material it had over its body. So
that is interesting.
Yeah.
I gotta say this. When he mentions Pegasus, I wonder if Victor, like me, when I think of Pegasus, I think of one is always that movie with Harry Hamlin, Clash of the Titans. I thought that was a great deal of Pegasus. And when we look at what actually as a symbol, Greek-wise, what Pegasus is, and when I say TriStar Pictures, the first thing most people will think about is what? Pegasus. At the beginning of every movie, it comes out and he flies off. Very powerful symbolism at the beginning of those movies and the end.
It is. And we also, okay. We also have, Jacqueline was asking a quick question, just to wrap this all up. What about mirrors in the bedroom? She hears there are portals. I agree with that. Yeah. Cover your mirrors if you feel like you're under spiritual attack. Okay. Just saying. They could be. I have a show on that, Jacqueline. It's called Magic Mirrors, and it's in the Glitch in the Matrix playlist. So go to that. Dennis Carroll, who was in the chat tonight. Hey, Dennis. He and I did a full show on Magic Mirrors, and we talk about that actually. So I have a great show on that. So thank you for asking. Yeah. Okay, well, I'm getting messages. I've got a kid. He's got a math test tomorrow, so I'm gonna have to. We've gone almost an hour tonight.
No, that's got to be a drag. Oh.
I know. We gotta go do some math. Okay, but I want to thank you for being here tonight. I want to thank you for being here, Barry. And Cosmic Crystal, Barry did it. He addressed that earlier, so I don't know if you missed it. So.
No. I don't know. It's the name you mentioned, Crystal. You had typed it across there. If that was you that typed the name of that individual across there that I was referring to, and it wasn't you, but that's the individual I was saying I would not work with. I know very well, and I caught me off guard. That's why I said something. Anybody would actually know any of the people I was referring to. I didn't mention them by name, and you put their name out there. It wasn't your name, unless somebody else typed it. It might not have been you. I think so. That's all that was. You're all right.
Thank you. Yeah,
believe
thank
me, if I have a problem with you, I will always let you know. I don't hold back.
Okay, well, you guys, Barry, thank you so much for being here. Like I said, you guys go join the Patreon if you'd like to see the raw data, and please come back and join me on Spaced Out Radio this Sunday night. I'll be there at 10 p.m. Eastern with a great show for you guys. on cryptids. Barry, where can people find you? Tell the audience about your your YouTube channel and your Patreon.
I'm on YouTube under Barry Littleton, and also under Patreon under Barry Littleton. If you go to my YouTube channel, please check out the playlist. There's probably about 320 videos on there or more that are all short, but they're fairly informative. I'm also Instagram and on Facebook. My website's barrylittleton.com, but I never get on there or do anything on there, but there are links to my other stuff on there. So that's the way.
Sweet. Okay, you guys go subscribe to Barry, become a member of his Patreon. And you guys, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, The Cryptid Huntress, please do so, and share these videos out and like them if you like them. Also, if you'd like to listen to me on podcast platforms, I'm there as well. I just put out season, I think it was 13 this past week. So we've got, I've got well over 100 episodes, probably a couple hundred episodes on podcast. So you guys, you could spend days listening to these shows. I wouldn't. I don't like hearing my own voice, but they're there if you guys want to hear them. Okay. Well, Barry, thanks again for being here. Okay, and I will see you guys this weekend. Y'all stay safe out there. Keep your head on a swivel and be careful. Watch out for aliens coming out of portals in the mall. Okay. Bye, Barry. Have a good night.
Right, thank you.
We'll see y'all next time.
Take care. See you later, audience. Thank you all. God bless.
See y'all. Bye.